All right. This is my second try at this. I made one previously about simple machines, but it just became too long to cover all six. So this is part one of two. And we're talking about simple machines, and it's in our forces unit in the book. And if you look at the definition of simple machines, you'll get something like this: a non-powered device used to change the amount of force or change direction when doing a task. Very complicated, right? And so, what you need to remember is that simple machines, they do not reduce work. Okay, it's always the same amount of work that you do, but it does make the work easier, which is always a good thing, right? And the two ways that it can make work easier is, like we said here, it'll allow you to change the direction of the force that you apply, or it can reduce the amount of force necessary. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit as we go. Here, in other words, you don't have to push as hard, or you don't have to pull with as much strain. All right, that makes it easier. Changing direction, if you pull down on a pulley, it's easier than lifting the object straight up. Okay, and here we have our six different simple machines. We have a lever, incline plane, also known as a ramp, screw, pulley, wheel and axle, and a wedge. All right, so let's start with a lever, and I'll get my pen color back. And so a lever is basically a long pole with maybe a fulcrum here, a pivot point called a fulcrum. Excuse my sloppiness here. Kind of not used to drawing on PowerPoint. And so if we have an object that we want to lift up from here to here, this is the resistance arm. And then when we push down on this side with a force, this of course would be the force arm. All right, and so the force arm would be this part right here. All right, so we have the force arm and we have the resistance arm. And here's some examples. Here, if you have a doorknob shaped like that, classic example of a lever. Seesaw, of course, would be a lever, and then an old-fashioned snow shovel is also a lever. All right, moving on. Here, the inclined plane, and this one's you know it as maybe a ramp, and it's really easy to picture. This guy's rolling up the barrel instead of lifting it. Car rising up. A ramp for handicapped access, and one that you might not think about is stairs. So instead of taking one huge step or jumping from bottom to top, it's broken down into smaller increments, and that would be an example of a ramp too, or more officially called the inclined plane. And then there is something called a screw. And this one, change colors here. This one, if we look at this picture of a spiral staircase, I already drew on this from the last try. All that is are stairs, but kind of twisted around the middle, right? So what a screw is an inclined plane or a ramp that is just twisted around and around and around. All right, and so we get drill bits. We get this part of a clamp, and this part of a wine opener. All right, so that is a screw. And we're running on 5 minutes here, so I think I'm going to stop at just these 3 examples, and I'll see you on part 2 for the next 3 simple machines.